What is up, everybody? We're back again, guys, with the daily live stream, so tune in. Today we have CEO murder arrest and Daniel Perry not guilty, okay, along with a few other reactions. I'm going to react to some other stuff. This one hopefully should be fire. Drop a comment down below, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to check out my Patreon as well, guys. For just €5 a month, you can subscribe to the Patreon, help grow the channel. Of course, it helps the channel quite a bit. And same price as a coffee. So tune in, guys. This one's gonna be epic. Of course, we have Piers Morgan on as well. So let's get it, man.
The planned killing of a civilian by a ruthless assassin would usually provoke outrage from everybody, no matter their politics. But that's not what happened when this hooded man shot dead Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare.
Yeah, the CEO of United Healthcare. Now, this is a few days old, guys. This is about 6 days old. So,
which is the biggest health insurer in the United States. The assassin left behind 3 bullets scrawled with the words depose, deny, and defend. Reaction in some quarters has been almost celebratory.
I saw someone say this is like finding out about Robin Hood in the 1300s. Like every new update that comes from this guy, I'm like, that's so sick.
Yeah, and definitely not a good thing to wish, death upon people, guys. If someone gets murdered, that's not a good thing. But the guy, a lot of people would say, is obviously morally and, terribly wrong morally, okay? Because obviously, the United Healthcare denial rate is 35%, something like that, which the national average in the US is about 8%. So it's about 25% higher than the national average, right? So obviously terrible, but you don't want people to get killed, guys. I mean, this sort of Robin Hood vigilante justice isn't great, you know what I mean?
Pose, defend. If that isn't a loud, clear message to all these CEOs across the board of these health insurance companies, I don't know what is.
We feel like
all the top CEOs from loads of these companies are pulling their pictures down off the internet. They're trying to remain anonymous because of people that might come after them, like this guy.
like we're living parallel lives with the elite in our country.
When you see the entire internet, left and right, united around one thing, and that is celebrating, I hate to say it too, the death of a healthcare CEO, you have to ask why. And I don't think that has been discussed at all.
Well, we'll discuss that tonight.
I personally don't celebrate that at all, guys. I mean, it's pretty sick that people celebrate somebody's death, but the people on the other side would say he had it coming because a lot of people died at his hand, right? From being denied healthcare, being denied money and, reimbursement for their healthcare, or, just any sort of, little treatment that they had. Apparently this guy had a really bad back and he was in a coma and all this type of stuff apparently, but yeah, he was like messed up from a back treatment. So
because critics of this eyebrow-raising response to a murder, cold-blooded execution, included Ben Shapiro this weekend, who said it's evidence that leftist revolutionary violence has now become mainstream. There was a notably different response on the left to the case of Daniel Penny, who was charged with manslaughter after the violent homeless man he restrained on the subway tragically died. Well, today, just before we came on air, Daniel Penny walked free from court, not guilty of either manslaughter or criminally negligent homicide. And in further breaking news, authorities say they're now questioning a man in central Pennsylvania who was found with a gun similar to the one used in the shooting of Brian Thompson. The man being held was also in possession of a 2-page document railing against the healthcare industry and suggesting that violence is the answer. Well, the New York Times says Luigi Mangione, an anti-capitalist force.
Luigi Mangione is the biggest Peter Pan name ever. Like, where did they pull this name out of, guys? Luigi Mangione. I mean, where did they pull this guy's name out of? It's just, bro, it boggles my mind. I just want to have my Patreon in the description, guys. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon, you can. I just want to pump that in the description. I'll do it here, actually, guys. All right, we'll do it over here.
Former Ivy League student was taken into custody this morning at a McDonald's. Here to discuss all this is Taylor Lorenz, author of the...
So this is around the time when he got arrested at the McDonald's.
User Mag news site on Substack. Tommy Lahren, host of Tommy Lahren is Fearless on Outkick. And
dude, I need to do a podcast soon, guys. I actually got given a podcast by big, people in Dublin, by big business people in Dublin. I actually got given my own podcast, but I'm not sure when that's going to be starting up, guys. So stay tuned for that. When you guys hear me announce that podcast, I mean, it's going to be life-changing. And it's definitely going to be like the biggest thing ever. But yeah, I have the job of the podcast, but just really not sure when it's starting. So yeah, hopefully soon, god damn it, because you know what I mean, we need it, bro. Let's get it. I'm itching to give my thoughts on different things.
Samantha Monhill, host of Bet News. Well, welcome to all of you. I want to start with the Daniel Penny breaking news, if I can, with you, Tommy, because I've been sort of incandescent about this case, as I think you have from the start. The idea that a war hero is in his civilian life on a subway and watches a completely deranged lunatic threatening to kill people, and he apprehends him and prevents him from harming anybody, and in the process, clearly, accidentally, didn't mean to do this, the guy falls unconscious and then he dies. And it's a tragic accident that happened, but it was entirely precipitated by this deranged lunatic going on a subway and threatening to kill people. A subway system, by the way, in New York, where people have been killed quite regularly in recent years. This guy is a hero, and yet he was treated like a criminal who should be thrown into jail for the rest of his life. Now, I think justice has been served, and he's been released, a free man, but with huge damage to his life, to his reputation, and so on. What do you make of this case?
So yeah, for those who don't know this case, basically a guy came onto the subway, right? In America, they love their subways or whatever, right? So he came onto the subway and he basically was like, oh, you know, everyone's gonna die, I'm gonna kill everyone. And the guy, you know, using his jiu-jitsu skills, and we learned this a lot in judo. I remember we learned like a lot of like strangles and chokeholds and stuff like that. Rear naked chokes, shit like that in judo. We learned all this stuff in judo, and it's not really that bad, guys, right? You're not gonna die from someone giving you like a rear naked choke or whatever. They had a word for it in Japanese in judo. I can't remember the word for it, but you're not gonna die from that, guys. But the guy died, unfortunately. And you know, when you come on a bus saying you're gonna kill everyone, or a train, and then you die yourself, unfortunately, that sometimes happens. You know what I mean? It's terrible, but.
Well, I'll also say damage to his reputation if he chooses to remain in New York City. If he comes to a great red state like the one I'm in right now, Tennessee or Texas or many other great states around this country, he'll be treated like the hero that he is. There's a lot I have to say on this, Piers, but I'd also say for those BLM grifters who are now coming out threatening to burn down the city, making this all about their race-baiting grift, how dare you, and shame on you. You did not care about Jordan Neely when he was a homeless man living on the streets, struggling with mental health problems and possibly a drug addiction. You didn't care about him then. You probably stepped over him on your way elsewhere. But now all of a sudden, when you can use his name and you can use his death to fundraise for BLM or to get out your pent-up aggression or to claim racism, now all of a sudden you care about someone like Jordan Neely? It's all too rich for me, Piers. Expect to see New York City once again descend into mayhem and chaos because BLM needs attention. The pro-terrorists, anti-Semites, anti-Israel protesters have been taking all the wind out of their sails, getting all the attention, so now they want to be back in the headlines. But I don't think they're going to be met with the same sentiment that they had with George Floyd in 2020. People are sick and tired of this, and people know that Daniel Penny was a hero, is a hero, and should be treated like one.
Well, that's how...
Damn, I mean, just straight to the point, very clear. And we'll allow it, guys, because she's hot. Just joking. But Tomi Lahren, guys, obviously super conservative, talking about how people, I agree with one part of that, you know, the part where, you know, this guy was obviously a homeless guy just living dead on the street and nobody cared about him. Now, obviously, they're using his name when he can be used. It's like, dude, what, you know, nobody cares about you if you're homeless, but now they can, you know, use an agenda against it. Yeah, it's a bit crazy. Tomi Lahren, man, that's straight to the point right there.
That's how I feel. A lot of people don't. Hawk Newsom, the founder of BLM in New York, has said that anyone who thinks Penny is innocent has racism in their heart before saying the KKK got another victory. Hypocrisy. Now I want to play.
Now the problem is, guys, the guy was unarmed. Like you should only hold like a chokehold for like a few seconds until he passes out. If you hold it for longer than like 10 seconds, you risk the guy getting brain damage, and if you hold it for like 20 seconds or 30 seconds, the guy's gonna die, right? Everyone knows. That's like the first day in martial arts. Whenever you choke someone out, you know, let them go, or like, you know, let them tap out or whatever. You know what I mean? When you just hold a chokehold forever, you know, they're gonna die, bro. And I'm not sure that he did that. I don't know, it was a guy on drugs as well, but yeah, this is a crazy case. But Daniel Penny was found not guilty. So
before I go to you, Mark, I want to play. This is a clip of Jordan Neely's father talking about his reaction to the verdict.
I just want to say I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we gonna do, people?
Most people have no
it's
clue
sad,
that in
guys. I have great
2024, the
sympathy
best
for
way
people.
to make money with Amazon
you know,
is not with physical
people
products.
getting killed, manslaughter. It's just awful, bro. You know, people shouldn't be getting killed. But the guy, you know, we have to look into the specifics of the case. I think he came on the train saying he's going to kill everybody on the train, something like that. But yeah, that was a crazy case, man. New York City is like not even real life.
What's gonna happen to us now? I had enough of this. The system is rigged.
Now, Mark, I'm sorry. Listen, I've got a lot of feeling for any father whose son dies in those circumstances. But the idea the system has been rigged over this, the idea that this guy, Jordan Neely, clearly mentally unwell, homeless, and potentially violent, nobody knew his propensity for violence. All they knew was he was acting in a very threatening way and threatening to kill people. And you have a guy who's from the military, who knows how to disarm people, who did exactly what he was trained to do. And then an accident occurred, and it's incredibly unfortunate. But he did not want to let this guy go in case he got up and carried out his threat. Are you really going to try and argue? I don't know if you are. I'm just pointing a question to you, really. But is this really the way it's being framed, as a victory for the KKK? That if you don't think this guy is guilty, you've got racism in your heart?
I don't think that that's the dominant position from people like myself who are critical of what happened and who are disappointed in the outcome of the trial. I think it's too simplistic to say that anybody who disagrees with me is a member of the KKK or has beliefs like the KKK. I think that becomes almost like a straw man argument. I think there are a few things that we need to talk about with regard to framing. The first thing is, as you pointed out, Piers, this man is mentally unwell. This person was struggling with mental illness. That's very different than the initial introduction to this segment that you gave, where you said he was a deranged lunatic. And as you repeated multiple times, deranged lunatic, it would communicate to the audience and to everyday people everywhere that the only way to stop this person from, destroying the subway and killing everybody was to put him in a 6-minute chokehold.
But he was behaving like a deranged...
6 minutes is, see, that's too long, guys, you know. But then again, like, once someone passes out from a chokehold, what do you do then? Like, you know, the police need to be there to arrest him, but 6 minutes seems like a long time. That's...
Sorry, Mark, he was. I mean, it's indisputable. Nobody knew at the time what his mental health status was. All they knew was he was behaving. He was behaving in a lunatic manner, threatening and potentially dangerous. Nobody knew if he was armed. Nobody knew what he might do. People were terrified. So I'm afraid, for all intents and purposes, the guy was behaving like a deranged lunatic. It turns out, after the event, we discover he has mental illness. But let's not pretend that in the moment he wasn't acting like a deranged lunatic, because he was.
I wasn't. I wasn't saying that. You interrupted before I could finish the thought. You would understand I wasn't saying that. What I'm saying is that someone with a mental illness may or may not be violent. Most people with mental illnesses in public space, according to all the evidence, all the data, are not violent threats. And so I'm saying that we should not presume that they are. I don't have an issue with you saying, hey, I'm going to subdue this person because I believe that they are unsafe for the particular context that we're in. What I take issue with is saying that I'm going to put them in a 6-minute chokehold because that's the only way to stop them from doing harm, when we don't know that. And that's the additional piece of this.
Out of interest,
the second piece of this, Piers, you spoke uninterrupted, and so did the other guests. So let me finish the thought before you disagree with it, please.
Fair enough.
The second point here is I actually agree with, which is that there are systemic issues here. There's poverty, there's homelessness, there are all these things that a lot of the world does not pay attention to until there is a crisis. That's not a BLM issue, that's not a conservative issue, that's not a left or right issue. The fact of the matter is we ignore this. The failure of the system here is not what happened on that subway, it's the fact that a person with mental illness can go untreated, unsupported, and houseless.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Shit, I agree with that all day, bro. You know, the way they treat homeless people in Ireland, I mean, we have basically a socialist kind of country where we pay people, give people lots of money. you know, even at that state, it's pretty bad. You know, the sort of mental housing we have here, Section 8, stuff like that, is still really bad here. Even in the US, it's 10 times as worse. You have to pay for it. If you don't have money to pay for it, you're not going to get your own treatment. It's way worse there.
Without any support, and then we end up with situations like this.
Right, but if
I agree 1000% with that. Like, it's pretty much, can't disagree with that. You know, it's just, you know, super sad, guys. Homelessness, crisis like that. I mean, Jesus. I mean, the dude is, you know, in his last few years. You know, if you're homeless, guys, I mean, your days of being alive are numbered, let alone, you know, having some sort of mental well-being. You know what I mean?
his father to be lecturing everybody in the way that he did. Again, I don't have a lack of empathy for him losing his son, but the lecture that he gave, you know, his son is wandering around as a homeless, mentally ill person on the subway threatening people.
Damn.
You know, with all due respect to his father, where was his father in his life? I mean, is that a reasonable question to ask? If that was one of my sons, I would feel an accountability and responsibility for the actions of one of my children. Would you?
I probably would, but I also don't think that that's the most important question. I may share with you the opinion. In fact, I do share with you the opinion that, hey, we should talk about family structures. We should talk about parenting. We should talk about fatherhood. But when a father's son is dead in this moment, we as a nation, just like with the healthcare issue, we have an opportunity to talk about the broader system instead of us criticizing how a mourning father is dealing with his dead son. Let's talk about the conditions that got us there. Let's not play a blame game.
Well, we're going to come to the cold-blooded execution of a healthcare executive, which I think is unfathomable to me that people would celebrate that happening literally within seconds of the guy being gunned down. But we're going to come to that debate in a moment, and obviously, Taylor, you're going to be a key part of that. But Tommy, I just sense that there's already a building momentum for this to be treated like a mini George Floyd situation. Now, I found the George Floyd story horrific. I thought what that police officer did was indefensible and appalling.
I agree with that, guys. You know, the police had his knee on his neck for like 9 minutes or some shit. That's like obviously not in police training. You know, even if the guy died from a drug overdose or whatever they say came out eventually in the end, which of course, you know, everybody knows that. But, you know, police training isn't to be keeping the guy on the floor for 20 minutes, 10 minutes. The guy's in handcuffs behind his back. You know, he's not going anywhere, guys. If anyone watches any police shooting videos, like police activity on YouTube, you know that if someone's arrested, especially with their hands behind their back, they're not going anywhere, bro. You were incapacitated. You know what I mean? So to sit on someone for 10 minutes is just dumb as hell.
But it's a completely different set of circumstances. This guy, Daniel Penny, is a Marine veteran. He's on a subway, and he's watching somebody directly threatening to kill people. And he apprehends him and he holds him down because he doesn't want him to be a threat to the lives of people around him. That used to be the kind of behavior that would win people medals for valor. Now you end up in a criminal court facing the rest of your life in a prison cell. And that's what I find so just, I can't understand it. How has society moved to punishing people like Daniel Penny for doing a good citizen's job, trying to protect people? I don't get it.
Right.
Well, you only can understand it if you're in Manhattan and you're in the mind of DA Alvin Bragg. There's a whole lot we can talk about there. Not a lot of things that office wants to prosecute outside of Donald Trump and Daniel Penny and other heroes. But I would also say this, when we're talking about this case and Daniel Penny, and we're talking about the race element here, let's keep in mind, Daniel Penny is a big guy. He's strong. He's young. He's a former Marine. If he's on that subway and Jordan Neely comes in threatening people, probably the last person that's going to be the victim is Daniel Penny. He can hold his own. Daniel Penny stood up to protect people that maybe couldn't protect themselves, the women, the children. Also, if you look at the footage from that subway, a lot of those people in the subway were people of color. So you have a white man that's standing up to protect people of color in a subway, and yet BLM is so desperate for their grift and for their attention that they really want to make this about race. The way I see it is you have a Marine who cares that he's white standing up to protect people. He didn't care what color Neely was. He didn't care what color the people were around him. He wanted to do the right thing.
I completely agree. Mark, it has nothing to do with skin color. And people that try and imply that it is, they are the ones playing the race card. I honestly believe that on this story. I've studied it in detail. I've seen all the footage. I've seen all the accounts. This is not a race story. Daniel Penny didn't do anything predicated on the skin color of Jordan Neely. He did it to protect people, as Tommy said, black, white, whoever. They were a multiracial subway at the time. Right? Where's the race element of this?
I'm fascinated by the certainty with which you say
well, you tell me
he
why
wasn't
I'm wrong.
motivated by
tell me why
race.
I'm wrong.
I'm not telling you you're wrong. What I'm telling you is that I have no idea what was in Daniel Penny's head. He could have been motivated by race. He could not have been motivated by race.
The jury did. That's why they just cleared him.
I would disagree with anyone who says he did that because of race. But I would also disagree with you saying unequivocally that race wasn't on his mind. You have no idea, but you have
there is no evidence
to say things
as There's no evidence.
You have but
zero.
I agree with you, and that's why
zero evidence,
and that's why.
So it's completely concocted.
I disagree with that. It's not completely concocted when you look at actual data on these types of things. But the bigger issue for me, because again, I'm not making a race argument.
How many types of these have there been?
Because
give me another one.
How many times?
What's going on here, bro?
How many times has a
killed?
Marine veteran done a 6-minute chokehold to protect people on a subway from somebody who shouted, "I'm going to kill you"? How many times has that happened that you can rattle off right now, giving you...
Yeah, you see, it's the racing, I'm not really going to comment on that. I don't really know too much about that stuff. But in regards to the, what the guy said, if he said, "I'm going to kill everyone," I mean, yeah, you got to protect people on the flipping thing, right? You know what I mean?
happens all the time.
So Piers, to be clear, I said things like this happen all the time, and the kind of sardonic question that you're asking seems clever to people who aren't smart, but as someone who's a trained social scientist, you don't have to have the exact same contextual factors
to make comparisons. Sorry, Mark, I'm sorry. You don't have to be a trained social scientist.
If, for example, it were a school bus instead of a subway, it wouldn't make it less important. If you were an Army vet instead of a Marine vet, it wouldn't make it less relevant. It's a silly question to ask me, when was the last time we were a Marine vet on a subway, blah, 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 blah. That's not the point.
Okay, so
my point is,
right,
I never made it about race.
Hang on.
I never made it about race.
Hang on. So far, you've called me dumb, silly, and you say you're...
I didn't call you dumb.
What kind of scientist are you?
I didn't call you dumb.
I don't think he called him dumb, did he?
What scientist are you?
Time out. You're not listening. I think you're very smart. I think you're making an argument that will only be persuasive to people who are not as smart as you. I never said you were dumb.
Well, let me respond to that.
When you rewind this, you'll see I never called you dumb. Yeah. I said you were being sarcastic.
You don't need to be...
Because you're being... Mark, I think you're being snarky with the question.
You don't need to be...
So again...
With respect, you don't need to be a social scientist to know that there is zero evidence of any racial motivation for what Daniel Penny did. So people who are trying to infer it, that somehow, as the founder of BLM in New York says, if you think he's innocent, you're a racist, and the KKK just got another victory.
The KKK. Bro, what is even going on?
I'm not a social scientist, but I know that's horseshit.
Right. Again, the statement from the BLM person in New York, I don't share, I don't echo, I don't agree with. You're asking me to defend a statement that I don't agree with.
Yeah, that's true. He's saying that he doesn't agree with that. So I don't know why Piers Morgan keeps bringing that up. I don't think anyone logically would agree with that. I mean, that just is ridiculous. Like, what? Who would agree with that?
The statement that I am making, that you and I should be engaging, is the issue of implicit bias and the issue of use of force. There is...
What bias?
There is... I said implicit bias.
Yeah, the use of force, like I said, guys, if you hold... I mean, this is pretty technical for those who don't do or listen to military and police training and stuff like that. If you hold a chokehold, like this was the first day of training we learned this, so I was like 15. If you hold a chokehold for more than 10 seconds after he's passed out, the guy has a chance of dying, right? Very quick. People can die pretty quick because the lack of blood flow and all that stuff to the brain, or at least you're in an incapacitated state heavily, right? So, 6 minutes was obviously way too long. I mean, that's just crazy long as to be holding a chokehold. I mean, come on.
Okay, let's extrapolate that. You think if Jordan Neely had been white and came on that subway, right, and was acting like a deranged lunatic, as he was, but if he'd been white, do you think that Daniel Penny wouldn't have intervened? Because that's what you're implying.
That's not what I'm implying. What I'm saying
bias,
is
then?
there
Where's
is
the bias?
evidence. Okay.
Where's
implicit bias? That's not what implicit. Okay. Let me use it. It's clear that you don't understand what implicit bias is, so let me just use a different word. With all due respect. If you just let me finish the sentence, I promise you'll hear me. What I'm saying is that I have no reason to believe that he was motivated by race or that he was not motivated by race. But the idea that someone could be motivated by race is not outside of the realm of possibility based on ample data that shows that people are more likely to use force against black people, that they tend to believe that black bodies are stronger and more physically resilient, and therefore they think they have to hold them in chokeholds longer. There's plenty of police data that shows that, including New York Police Department data. So when you asked me to show other examples, no, I don't have examples of other Michael Jackson impersonators on subways being choked by Marines, but there is other evidence of people in very comparable circumstances where race has mattered. But again, I'm not making a racial argument. I'm saying that the guy choked him too long and he should still be alive right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that, guys. Like, you know, you're choking a guy. I mean, how long does it take to choke out someone? Literally like 3 to 5 seconds. Like, dude, this is if you have any martial arts training, anything at all, if you did any, which I know a lot of people don't, like 15% of people do martial arts or something like that. You know, whatever, jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and shit, right? But more grappling. I don't have any experience in boxing, but in terms of grappling, it takes like not even 5 seconds to choke some dude. It is so quick. 6 minutes is just wild. Like, he must have just been a lifeless body. Like, if you lock in a chokehold, you know, I mean, holding a guy down, yeah, it's a weird one. I would try and maybe wrap his hands with something. I mean, there's something you'd have to do, like get other people to hold him down until the police come. It's pretty easy to hold a guy down, especially with 3 guys. I've never seen ever 3 or 4 guys take on one guy and not win in terms of holding him down. I mean, it's impossible unless the guy is some sort of jiu-jitsu black belt, Frank Mir, you know, one of these guys. Like, it's just not happening. So to have, you know, 2 or 3 guys hold him down, it should have been enough. You know, to hold a chokehold for 6 minutes to me seems extreme, but I don't know the exact case. You know, I don't know, like, he obviously was going crazy and they had to do something, you know. It's just, yeah, maybe it was too much violence, you know, but he got freed. He was not guilty. You know, I have to read into it a little bit more, but it is crazy, guys, that there's like some sort of vigilante justice in America. You know, it's wild. You never really hear about that too much stuff like that happening in Ireland and like Europe. I suppose you hear it a little bit, but nothing too much.
And the fact that he was held for that many minutes and people on the subway were literally saying, "You're killing him." That is evidence that he should have stopped. Again, I'm not taking issue with the subduing of him. I'm taking issue with how long he held him, how long he choked him, and that he didn't stop him. Once that big guy's on top of him and he has physical control, there's a whole subway watching, he could have stopped choking him. That's all.
Yeah. Dude, I agree, man. You know, and I know we sit back here, you know, what do they call it? Armchair quarterback. You know, we're like, oh, he should have done this. You know, in the heat of the moment, guys, you know, that's when you always hear the police saying, oh, he should have shot him in the arm or leg. You know, I've shot guns before. Like I said, very basic shooting I have. And you can't shoot a guy's leg or arm. It just doesn't work like that. It's impossible. You can't aim a handgun whatsoever. So, yeah, it's really technical, man. To say he shouldn't have held him for that long, I probably agree with that. You know what I mean? Jack Dunton, you got to think if he get locked up, everyone else would be scared to protect the vulnerable. Yeah, that's true. I agree with that as well. If he didn't subdue him, I think, you know, you're being a bit of a bitch, man. You know, you're being a bit of a bitch. If you don't try and subdue somebody that's going to basically say, I'm going to kill this whole train, you know, then you're a bitch, like, in my opinion. And, you know, you failed as a human being. Which way, modern man? You know, we want to help protect the innocent. You know what I mean? That's kind of where you should be as a man. You know, you should be definitely, absolutely, Jack, don't do it. You should be trying to protect the innocent people for sure, guys. Like, that's your main duty as a man, is to protect innocent people. But yeah, it is a crazy one. That is crazy. 6 minutes, probably too long.
That's all I'm saying.
Listen. Obviously, he choked him for too long, or the guy would still be alive. It's whether he did this deliberately, and obviously he didn't. So let's just agree on those 2 facts.
I disagree.
Let's move to the other story, because Taylor's been waiting patiently here. So this issue of Brian Thompson, one of the top healthcare executives in the country,
Okay, so for those who don't know, this guy, like I said in the beginning, was like a healthcare executive. They have a 35% no, cancellation. 35% of the claims that you make to United Healthcare get denied. Like that's crazy, right? That's just crazy. Whereas 8% is like the national U.S. average. Okay, so there should be a way more sort of a guideline there. Basically the guy was a bit of a scumbag. Let's be honest, guys. The CEO. Does he deserve to die? Absolutely not, guys. Absolutely not. I would definitely be against this sort of vigilante justice. But, he actually probably indirectly caused a lot of hurt and suffering and harm, and probably had death to other people as well. So that's what happens, guys, in life. Let's just give people a little karma here, right? When you're a CEO and you tell your clientele that you don't get money because of X, Y, and Z, and your loved ones die because of it, probably something bad is going to happen to you in life, guys. The universe will not allow you to get away with such horrendous shit. Like, it just fucking doesn't work like that, guys. The universe is too powerful. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be morally a better character. Denying people's claims because of pre-existing conditions and stuff, it's a legal thing. It's above my pay grade, but, it's definitely not a good thing, Watching from Castle Welland. Where the hell is that? Bud the dog. Where's Castle Welland, mate?
I was curious why.
But much love.
Your first reaction would be to his cold-blooded execution. And people wonder why we want these executives dead. And then you later commented when people were giving you a lot of blowback. I'm not alone, you said. Healthcare executive down with party balloons was on a next post that you commented on. Why would you...
Cece,
what is
help
she
me
saying?
with my homework.
She's happy that
if
this
you're
guy
student, you know how overwhelming school can be.
Justice?
Would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being? Aren't you supposed to be on the caring, sharing left where, you believe in the sanctity of life?
She's smiling. I think a lot of people are evil, guys. Literally, she's smiling about it. Like, dude, you shouldn't wish death upon anyone, man. No matter how bad they do, I mean, even obviously there's a certain point that you get to, but how is she smiling? It's a bit crazy. I mean, we can talk about it. I was talking about it with the lads, and like, yeah, they, people disagree, agree, but like, geez, to be happy about it, I'm not so sure, guys. It makes people afraid, though. It makes people, it's kind of sort of a social constraint where it makes people now, other CEOs, not screw people over for fear that this might happen,
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Seriously?
I mean...
Joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that be murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So he's not innocent. But you don't deserve to get shot like a dog in the street, guys. That just to me is just wild, man. How people love that. But obviously, like I said, guys, the universe isn't gonna allow you to be, in a good position in life if you're just a scumbag to other people. I mean, it just doesn't work like that. You're fucking just doing shit to people. I mean, bad shit is gonna happen to you. The karma is crazy, man. And if anyone experiences it, it's crazy.
Vulnerable people, and the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
Damn.
No, that would not.
Well, why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I think because it wouldn't fix the system.
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
I don't find it funny that tens of thousands of Americans die every year and because they are denied life-saving health care from people like the CEO. Now, I want to fix this system. You're right. We shouldn't be going around shooting each other with vigilante justice. No. I think that it is a good thing that...
She's lying. She definitely believes that. Like, you know what I mean? She definitely believes that's a good thing. You know what I mean? She's kind of lying about that. Just by the way, she's just switching up now because she realizes that she's going to get millions of views on Piers Morgan, and she's going to look like a bad person, you know, unfortunately.
This murder has led to America, or really the media elites and politicians in this country paying attention to this issue for the first time. You mentioned you couldn't understand why somebody would feel this reaction when they watched a CEO die. It's because you have not dealt, it sounds like, with the American healthcare system in the way that millions of other Americans have.
I've dealt with the healthcare system in various ways in America. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but the idea that I would view it as something...
Have you been denied life-saving treatment?
The idea that I would view it as something joyful, that a man has been, who's just a healthcare executive, has been executed in the street, I find completely bizarre.
Oh my God, you know what I just thought of right there? I don't know, can I actually bring it up here? Oh, I wish I could talk about it. You know Saw, if anyone's watched Saw, one of the main storylines in that is him getting denied healthcare, or them kind of messing up. It's like a horror movie, okay? It's like a Saw 1, Saw 2, Saw 3, the final cut, like all this type of stuff. Like Saw is like these really savage, gory horror movies that's actually based off this, guys. That's actually like sort of basically the guy, you know, in Saw, the main guy, Saw, like the killer, right, gets denied healthcare for like his lung cancer or some bullshit, like I don't know, it's some made up shit, right? And then he actually like ends up killing or puts these guys in the healthcare system, like these big executive CEOs and stuff. He puts them in these traps, and it, you know, ultimately ends up killing them, right? And kind of teaches them like a moral lesson. You know what I mean? It's actually, the Saw is a great movie, really gory, but really good moral lessons in those movies, if you could call them moral lessons. But they're actually like great movies to kind of teach people, okay, like don't, you know, be a bad executive CEO healthcare guy or else you will be put in one of Jigsaw's traps. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, that's kind of how I figure Saw is like. That's like basically the whole plot of Saw, you know.
You bring in Tommy here. Yeah. Tommy, you know, I keep being told... Hang on, Taylor, I'll come back to you.
Okay, Tommy, don't say I'm joyful. I said
you said you were feeling joyful.
Yeah, I take that back. Joyful is the wrong word, Piers.
You think?
But I said, as I clarified...
You think?
Yeah.
You think joyful is the wrong word? Yeah.
Joyful. I told you, she just switched up when she realizes that morally, she's just as bad as the killer. I mean, obviously denying healthcare is bad. Says Raylan is terrible. You know, it's terrible. But denying claim, yeah, absolutely. Down, yeah. Shout out to Down if you're watching from Down. That's Northern Ireland, isn't it? No, I'm just joking, guys. That's an Irish joke. Only Irish people get that.
Sure, I'd say it vindicated. Celebratory, because again, it feels like justice in this system when somebody responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans suffers the same fate as those tens of thousands of Americans who he murdered or
Tommy, whether Taylor wants to retract the word joyful or not, we all heard her say it, and I was just shocked.
Did. I mean, we did hear her say that shit.
I find that kind of response utterly shocking, that someone could be murdered in the middle of Manhattan, who happens to be an executive for a healthcare company, and people think this is something that makes them feel joyful.
Yeah, this is still the remnants of the incredibly bratty Occupy Wall Street movement that's morphed into 100 other movements by now, all equally as disgusting. But to celebrate the murder of a husband and a father simply because you disagree with his position at a company, or you disagree with the company, or you disagree with the system of healthcare that we have in the U.S. is quite frankly sick, twisted, and disgusting. Why you'd celebrate anybody's murder, especially just an innocent man who you happen to disagree with,
we're going to have to agree with this hot biatch.
is really shocking to me. But it also just...
But at the same time, like I say, guys, it's not good, man. If you deny healthcare to people, that's so messed up, you know.
This goes to show that the left and many on the left have a tendency to believe that violence like this, political violence, is necessary. It's a means to an end. And if they believe in the end and they believe in the means, it's really sick and wrong. If you want to have a conversation about healthcare in this country, that's fine. Let's have that all day long. But to be joyful, or even to say you're not empathetic about somebody losing their life when they leave behind two young boys, especially during the holiday season, the same day that millions of New Yorkers are celebrating a tree lighting. I mean, that's just too far for me, a bridge too far. The loving and tolerant left is at it again, Piers.
Yeah, Taylor, I don't mean to be rude, but why the fuck are you laughing all the time? I don't get it.
Yeah, I was gonna literally, I haven't even watched this, guys. I'm like too good with this shit. Like, she's just big ass smile on her face, laughing, like she's like really happy. And I'll be honest with you guys, it's not like I'm not gonna say women, because that's not what I think, but people that don't experience like violence, or that have never done like violent shit, like, or whatever, the people that aren't in the military or the police, they always love to do violence because they don't understand what can be the end goal. Like, she's like laughing because she's never experienced violence and shit, guys. Let's be honest. Like, and certain guys are like that as well. It's fucked up, man, to be kind of promoting violence, guys. It's crazy.
Sorry, apologies for my language, but honestly, I find it unbelievable.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
Literally,
I'm laughing at Tommy's insane mischaracterization of why people are angry. It has nothing to do with Occupy Wall Street. This is a feeling that people feel across the left and the right. You mentioned Ben Shapiro earlier in his video about the healthcare exec. I encourage people to check the comment section on that video, okay? 100% of America is united on this, or rather the majority of America.
I wouldn't say that, guys. Like, I would say that people are definitely, happy that morally the guy gets his comeuppance. You know what I mean? But you wouldn't be happy if the guy died. Like, you know what I mean? That's not obviously a good thing. But morally, I mean, yeah. I mean, morally, it's the same thing. So,
is united on this. We do not think that this healthcare system that is murdering, again, thousands of innocent Americans who, by the way, Tommy, also have families, also have children. These people are being killed by our barbaric and evil for-profit healthcare system. And I agree.
True.
We should not necessarily go around shooting people in the street. And while I am joyful that this issue has been brought to attention,
Did you hear that, Pierce?
I agree
Not necessarily.
It's just unbelievable.
They shouldn't be shot in the streets. They shouldn't be shot in the streets because, again, it doesn't solve the systemic problem. You could United Healthcare will just appoint a new ghoulish CEO. The point is that we need to fix these systems so that, again, people like Brian or whoever's in charge of these companies stops murdering tens of thousands of innocent Americans. That is the crime.
Let me bring in Mark on this. I mean, Mark, I'm sorry, but there's just no justification for laughing your way through a segment like this, talking about how joyful you were that this happened. Is there?
Again, I'm not joyful that it happened.
Sorry, Taylor, I'm asking Mark, not you.
Well, then stop.
I heard you. You said it.
She's baiting and switching, guys, because she realizes that she messed up with her speech. That's not a good road to go down, lads.
You may have recanted it, but unfortunately,
no, I'm clarifying it because
unfortunately,
again,
as you know, this show keeps receipts. We all know what we saw, and we all know what we heard.
I'm not denying that I said it, but I'm denying that your interpretation of it, which is an insane.
I know what joyful means. It fills you with joy.
Yes, I'm joyful that people are paying attention to this issue.
No, you were joyful that he got murdered. That's what you said.
I am.
Then you realised what you said. Then you realised what you said.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm clarifying it.
I mean, like I said, guys, people get karma on them. That's what happens,
You thought, that's going to make things even worse for me. Mark, let me bring you in.
No, just to be clear, things are great for me because, again, I am on the side of the rest of America, which believes that this for-profit healthcare system.
Actually, you're not, because most Americans do not think they felt joy in that moment. It's you.
No, because, again, I didn't feel joy in that moment. I felt joy that people are paying attention to this issue.
You told me you did.
Again, you're misinterpreting.
No, I tell you what, just to clarify. Do you want me to play it again? Do you want me to remind you?
Stop misrepresenting my views.
Do you want me to remind you what you said? Do you want me to remind you?
You can repeat what I said all I want, but again, you're misrepresenting my views. I am telling you how I feel.
Social media will remind you later. Don't worry about it. Mark.
Again, Pierce, I'm glad you're
Taylor,
able
can
to
you
get
show...
We're going to have trial by social media, I think, later on in this episode, lads.
Some manners to your other panelists, please. Mark.
Well, stop misquoting me.
No, I quoted you directly. You then recanted it.
Well, then stop misrepresenting my views.
Let Mark come in. Let Mark come in, lady. Quit talking so much.
And my feelings.
I'm not. You felt joyful, then you wished you hadn't said it because you knew how bad it sounded.
No.
Bro, I love this guy. You hear that? I hate it when you guys fight. Yeah, literally, this lady needs to stop talking, bro.
I'm not. You felt joyful, then you wished you hadn't said it because you knew how bad it sounded.
No, Pierce.
I quoted you directly. Mark.
Again, you are misrepresenting how I feel. So stop misrepresenting.
Let me as an independent third person here, along the time a third and fourth person here, maybe offer some clarity to this. It sounds like she used the word joy. You found it appalling.
Did you?
she says that she misspoke. She recanted, and you're saying that despite her recanting, she still said it in the first place. It seems to me to me the question is just whether you believe her or not. But we can move past that. I happen to think that none of us should find joy in death. None of us should find joy in people being killed. This was a person. This was a human being. This was somebody who was loved and loved people. I find no joy, no value, no humor in any human loss of life or animal loss of life. But in this case, I think it's important to stress that because of everything that happened on the internet. That said, we can have two conversations simultaneously. We can find great sadness in the fact that this man was killed, and also see it as a valuable and rich site of opportunity to discuss the bigger picture of healthcare in America.
I love that. This guy's great. So, like I said, I was kind of discussing this. It's kind of, not good in any way, but in one way, it kind of teaches people like, okay, I shouldn't be a shitty person. I should run my company a little bit more ethically, and then I won't get any sort of vigilante justice, put upon me.
Which doesn't lead to individual political assassinations, but does lead to the death of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and maybe even millions of people every single day, some of which is entirely preventable. We live in a system that prioritizes profits over people. And the fact that so many people who are otherwise normal and humane and loving and empathetic were able to find humor or joy in this tragic death, it says something about who we are as people, but it also says something to how this wicked system has damaged us and corroded our character and eroded our sensibilities. I'm saying let's have that conversation about how sad this man's individual death is, but let's not let that be the only story that we tell. Let's also tell the story about this healthcare system. That's all.
Obviously, there's a much bigger debate to have about the healthcare system. But Tommy, it was inevitable that the finger of blame would eventually turn to one person. Let's take a look at this clip.
Don't you think this is a systemic problem that's coming from the top? Look what Trump tweets or whatever it's called, false social.
Called truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there's the stuff that comes out of his mouth is exactly this kind of stuff, and he allows it. And people, I noticed in 2016, wow, people are behaving differently.
It was Donald Trump's fault, Tommy, that this lunatic, I'll call him a deranged lunatic, even though we have no idea if he was, but we do know that he believes violence was the answer, because he said...
Donald Trump's fault? How the hell was it his fault? This is... Bro, anyone will find any excuse to insult Trump, man. Come on, this is wild shit, man. These people on mainstream media are just lunatics, bro. Like, you can't even understand even partially what they're trying to say. I mean, come on, this is unbelievable.
That in his little manifesto that was found on him. Tommy, it was Donald Trump's fault that this deranged lunatic executed the healthcare executive. Nobody else. Trump.
Yeah, this obsession with Donald Trump is quite frankly really unhealthy, and I hope that members of the mainstream media and these pundits, I hope that they seek help immediately, because everything in their mind always goes back to Donald Trump. They eat, sleep, breathe Donald Trump. I think they're bigger fans of Donald Trump, quite frankly, than I am. But, I don't see a different attitude that's dark and dismal in this country. I actually do see what is legitimate joy in this country about Donald Trump being reelected and sitting as our president-elect currently. And I think that the majority of the American people echoed that on November 5th. But there's just the obsession that everything has to be Trump's fault. Of course, everything bad that happens is blamed upon Donald Trump. But this shtick is getting old, Piers, because we've got Donald Trump not only winning an election, winning the popular vote, making great gains across demographics. You can't hate everyone all at once everywhere. And the Democrats and these media hacks, they're really going to have to reckon with that, because the majority of the American people are not on their side, as evidenced by a historic election.
Now, Taylor, I just want to wait, because you've obviously, you're unhappy with my mischaracterization of what you said and inferring that you were feeling joyful about what had happened to this guy. So we've got the clip and we'll just play it back just to remind you.
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, Joy, unfortunately, because it
Joy?
feels like.
Serious?
I mean,
joy in
I
a
guess I
man's
would say
execution?
maybe not joy, but certainly not.
Damn, they're too good on Piers Morgan's show. They had that clipped up within. He told the producers, clip that now and show it to us back. Hold on. Let's watch it once more.
For many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like.
Serious?
I mean.
Joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not. No, certainly not.
Damn, bro. Caught out just like that. That's too easy, bro.
This is literally.
So you felt joy. You felt
I'm so
joy.
glad that you played that clip, because you'll see that I didn't
And
say
then she
that
said
I felt
she
joy in the
misspoke
man's
and
death.
clarified.
Oh.
And I didn't say
You
that I
don't think,
felt
Mark,
joy in
it was
that
more
man's
that she
death?
wished she hadn't said she felt joy? Because
No.
she suddenly realized how
Piers,
bad it
why don't
sounded.
you listen to that clip again? Because I don't say that joy that I feel joy in the man's death. I said I feel joy because, and that's exactly when you cut me off. And if you let me finish, I would say I feel joy.
Bullshit.
Oh, bullshit, Piers. You don't know what was in my head, Piers.
That's not. She's right. She's right, Piers.
Bullshit.
She actually said, "I feel joy," and then you interrupted her there. Perhaps I don't know what she was going to say, but she certainly didn't get a chance to finish.
Well,
finish
the viewers
thought.
can watch the whole thing in the right context.
And you
We
may
don't
not
censor
realize
things.
this, but
we
that's,
don't censor things here. Mark, I don't know why you're going out of your way to defend her, mate. Because Taylor, let's be honest, you know what you said. You wish you hadn't said it.
Truth.
Let me give Taylor an opportunity. Would you like to apologise for using the word joy?
Again, if you take the word joy completely out of context from the word that I said it,
Would you like
it
to?
was because
would
as
you
you
like
so
to
why
apologise?
don't
Yes or
you play
no?
the clip?
Yes or no?
You just played the clip that showed that
Do you
I
want to
said I feel joy
apologise?
because, and that's right when you cut me off.
Do you
So
want
let
to
me tell you why I
apologise?
feel joy. I feel joy because people like you, who are rich and powerful and on TV and have all the access to all the healthcare privileges in the world, are finally being forced to pay attention to the barbaric healthcare system that murders tens of thousands of innocent Americans. And that is what I feel joy in. That people.
I agree with that. Shit, I agree with that. Like, I mean, there's no question about it, guys, that the healthcare system in the U.S. is pretty messed up because a lot of people die, man. A lot of people can't get treatment. I mean, it's messed up. I mean, a lot of people can as well. Obviously, it's 66%, I suppose. But a lot of people can't. It's super sad, guys. Healthcare is no joke, you know.
Like you are forced to confront those systemic problems. That's what I'm joyful.
Yeah, I knew it would be my fault as well at some stage. Right, well, thank you to my panel. I appreciate it. A lively debate on two big stories that have been gripping America. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Let me just check one thing, please. Let me just check one thing, lads, before we move on. Yeah, what do you all think about that? It's pretty crazy. Like, I think that. What do you all think about that? Because I think that that's pretty. I mean, it's pretty plain and simple. Pretty plain and simple that, you know, it's not good to murder people in the street. But at the same time, you know, the guy, some people feel not joyful, but some people, I probably wouldn't be included in this, but some people feel like he got his comeuppance. Like I said, the bad karma, it's there. You know, when you deny people healthcare and then your dad or mom or brother or sister dies because of that, that's crazy. You know, you're gonna wish hurt upon other people for sure. Absolutely, I completely understand. You know, do we agree with that? Probably not, lads. You know, that's probably not the best way to go around it. You know, they should have probably sued him. I mean, United Healthcare and all these massive healthcare companies, they get massively, you know, sued as well. So it's not just like they're not just doing it without sort of any sort of repercussions on it. So I was gonna do this. I was gonna do this Dr. Phil thing, anti-white racism, because it seemed funny that he just put this video up. But I'm just gonna see. Oh, seconds. I'm just gonna see how long I've been online. I've been online for 50 minutes, and the signal just isn't that good, guys. It's kind of shitty. Hold on a second. Signal is kind of shitty. But what do you think? Should I keep going, lads? Yeah, the signal is pretty dog shit. So I'm gonna just leave it right there, man. I love you guys all. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure to hit that Patreon subscribe, you know, for future videos, and hopefully we can do a lot more, because we're gonna be improving these videos. We're gonna be trying to live stream every single day in 2025, every single night, anyways, and hopefully you guys all enjoy, man. All right, I love you guys all, man, and I'll see you in the next live stream.